This True Self-Talk happens right after we had a energy session together here online, and we use Skype for our Sacred Self community. This is a free event, and those of you here live, a big extra thank you to you, because you are the ones that are actively contributing to our True Self-Talk. What is a True Self-Talk? Well, we're talking about the things that come up when we actually take the time to connect within. And this was a worldwide event. We had many people from all different corners of the world, and 3 beautiful healers that helped me facilitate this, Cindy, Jillian, and Sheila. Another extra thank you to you. Happy to see each and every one of you here. Lovely. All right, so in a few words, what was this session about? You all received instructions. You all had a little bit of an overview of a current collective energies. These current collective energies are basically our current weather report for energetically sensitives. And there I analyzed and predicted a few sort of energetic streams for the month. And yes, I called it a rocky month. It's a difficult month for all of us, because we are seeing sort of the dark and the light dancing together. Yeah, it's like a bit of a roller coaster here in this month, and many of us probably had a little bit of a hard time here in these past weeks, actually physically. Anybody, headaches, overall stiffness of the body, or even back pains? Yeah, I see that. Those are all things that can be seen energetically for someone like myself who's trained to do this. This is how I can do these energetic forecasts. It's not a prediction, guys. It's just sort of reading out the map, okay? And what it tells me is that we are now asked to really go within, to really, check in with ourselves and make sure that we are present in ourselves. Now, that said, if we do too much of that, we can get stuck in ourselves. We can get stuck in our emotions. We can get stuck in our physical aches. Or, and this is probably the most prominent phenomenon, get stuck in our heads. Yeah, like, oh, I got to do this. Oh, this is coming up next. And, trying to figure things out with our minds. So if any of these things occur to you or are occurring to you on a regular basis, or in particular in these past weeks, then know that you're not alone. This is part of our human condition. But we have, just like I had to go through two hurricanes since we last spoke here in the True Self. There are occasional storms. There are occasional, in spirituality we call them celestial events or celestial constellations that bring in particular conditions. All right. And so here for October, when we come together to tune in with ourselves, we have to put this into context. Yeah. In our own experience, our own inner experience is never just our own experience. Yes, you have your subjective experience of it, but the context needs to be seen as well. So if you have lots of headaches, okay, at a particular day, that doesn't mean that, you have a brain tumor or something like that. I mean, provided that there is no medical condition. But this can as well be related to some of these unseen outer factors that most of us just sort of experience but don't quite know yet how to put our finger on it. Now, before I go a little deeper into navigating all of this, and today I'm going to try to help you with a bit of a step-by-step guide, because, we all look for direction. We all want to know sort of what we should focus on and how we can understand our own journey better, which is ultimately the goal of connecting with our true selves. But before I go there, I want to ask you guys how this particular time, this particular session was experienced by you subjectively. Let's share a little bit, guys, and help one another out in realizing that we are actually not alone on this journey. Who wants to share their subjective experiences just from our session right now?
Hi, Jona. This is Emer. I felt
Hi.
very emotional at the very end when I really tuned. There's a storm here. It's nothing like you've had a storm here in Ireland, but the trellis on the back wall has just sort of ripped off, and a couple of, not trees, but, tall bushes have come down. I was just looking out at it and was thinking of, the sort of the past and storms, and I just got very emotional. Yeah. Thinking of,
there's
maybe
a lot going on. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually seeing the I had a wave again, which happens now and again, of feeling nothing but love for maybe people who have, maybe done, maybe my expectations weren't met, and just in general, just a big wave of love. And it's lovely to be in that space. It'd be lovely to stay how I feel right now.
When you say emotional, Emer, do you mean like emotional as in?
But the tears
like
came.
Anger. Oh, okay.
No, in a good way. As in, I felt love. I felt a lot of love.
That's actually not your emotion.
Okay.
That is coming forward here. That is something different. That is something that we call sacred heart. There is sort of a flame in all of us. And the word flame is just sort of an attempt here to help you guys out with imagery, because we feel it in our body, and we feel it it gets hot, right? And then we get overwhelmed, and we call it emotion because we never really learned how to differentiate that. That's not emotion. Okay, that's something much bigger. If anything, if it helps you, the distinction here, it's a feeling. All right, so in the English language, okay, we don't necessarily differentiate between emotion and feeling, but I would suggest to all of you to start doing that. Start differentiating. Emotions are much more physical, and much more psychological. They have neurotransmitters and hormones and all those kinds of physical components to them. They have to do with interaction with others. But a feeling is something that comes from within yourself, that arises within yourself. And this is quite significant and very relevant for this session, but also for you to understand yourself better. Because what it was that you got overwhelmed by, Emer,
What was it?
It's not, you described it in your own words. You started thinking of the bigger picture. You started thinking of other people, and in a way, without, wanting to sound cheesy or anything, but you started connecting with other people's hearts.
Yeah.
This is much bigger than you. You see?
Yeah.
An emotion is just in you. Yeah, that arises, and we emotions as sort of these temporary and often fluctuating states that we can be in, like anger, sadness, fear or anxiousness, or pride, or total desperation. Those are emotions, okay? But feelings are much bigger. They include sort of the cosmos, if you will. They include, not just you, but you finding yourself in the bigger network of things. Yeah. So the word cosmos here, really just as a placeholder for however we define connectivity, like feeling connected, feeling united. So this feeling is significant because what it does, and it's almost like magic, yeah, it's not mysterious, okay? Spiritual teachers have been talking about this feeling for thousands of years, Ima, but what is happening is that you, in that moment, overcame the separation between you and the cosmos. And that is not sort of a new agey, kind of thing. That is an actual feeling that we as humans can feel. So I want you to file this feeling, even if it was just for a split second, for a few seconds, as a new reference, as an inner experience of unity, if you will. Yeah, and I'm going to describe here in a few moments what you united with. I just called it cosmos or connectivity or something bigger than you. And most of you already know where this is going, but this is not external. You overcame a barrier within yourself for these moments. And when we hone in on this, because you can recall this, you can practice recalling this. This is what all this mindfulness and meditation stuff is about, okay? To get to this place, because it's an important gateway within ourselves, but it needs to be practiced. So congratulations for experiencing that. Yeah, and from now on, differentiate it. Don't call it an emotion.
Okay. Yeah.
That's an emotion would be degrading it in a way, because emotions are, they come and go, and they are not really significant. Yeah, it's just part of our sort of human 3D experience. But what you described, okay, this inner connectedness with, the bigger world and other people's hearts, that is significant for your entire soul journey. It serves you now as a reference point. And in my sort of rather spiritual scientific talk, it is a very important impulse that had, or signal, that has been transferred between the lower parts and the higher parts of you. We'll get to this here in a moment. Thank you for sharing, Emo. Sorry for lecturing, but I really needed you to understand the difference. And all of you listening. Mm-hmm.
Can I just mention that when you said there that what's happening now is, not to sort of paraphrase, the dark and the light are having a little bit of a battle in the world. So it's when that, I will say, washed over me, that Sacred Heart moment, before that, the last few weeks, I've been feeling very sped up and anxious. While, it's like going in and out of two worlds, or, when it, like old televisions, when you turn them on and they fizzle. It's that kind of, I'm like, this is nonsense, but then I'd be pulled into it. Nonsense, pulled into it,
That's the separation I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's like a membrane or a wall or a veil. And when we are in the state that you described, in that sort of sacred heart state, as we call this, then you are able to overcome that. And the fear goes away. The anxiousness goes away.
It's beautiful.
So I know it's difficult to translate this into practical terms, because when we feel this sacred heart feeling, it's only for a few seconds. Okay? Yeah, so the practice is really about trying to not force it, but trying to hold it, or trying to find your path back to it when you need it, in moments of great fear, in moments of great desperation or confusion, to stop trying to figure it out with your mind, or to stop getting pulled into your emotion and choosing from that place, or, stop getting pulled into your pain, but to seek that state within yourself instead. And what happens then is that a new perspective opens up. And I'll explain that here in a moment. It's very, very important for us to understand that. It's literally shifting your state. And when you shift your state, your perspective changes. And when your perspective changes, your perception changes. And your perception is what you can see, what you can perceive sort of as viable options or solutions. See, when you're in a separated state, which is basically the goal of darkness. The goal of darkness is to keep all of us in a state of inner split or separation. Mm-hmm. So you discovered the antidote to that. Because when you know how to get into what we call a unified inner state, all right, you can overcome your fears. You can overcome your anger. You can even overcome your physical conditions. All right, so it sounds like magic. It's not. No, it's a practice. And I'll show you guys the different steps here when we're done with sharing. Thank you, Emer. I love those sharings because they give me a prompt to mention things based on what you guys experience and not just what, kind of lecture or whatever I want to make. Go ahead. Inner experiences, subjective inner experiences, guys. Who else would like to share? How did the session go for you?
Hello, everyone. It's
Hi.
So for me, it was a little bumpy. I entered the session a little later, and right at the beginning, I felt that mental overlay, like what you mentioned, in terms of trying to figure it out. And I felt that quite strongly coming, especially with this last full moon moment. Like there was a lot of energy, and it kind of brought up. I kind of received it as what stands in between my heart, like that barrier that you mentioned. That kind of how it felt to me. That that's exactly what I need to work with. Kind of, to let it go and to shift the focus.
Sarah, did you feel this in any particular areas of your physical body or energy body?
I would say that probably mostly I have like that almost triangulation, like between my legs, my heart, and my sixth chakra. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, around the head.
So like a simultaneous sensation in these areas? Is that what you mean with triangulation?
I connected because it's, like my legs have, my shaking legs. We've been talking about that many times. It's just part of me to release that some stuck inner child energy. My heart, I feel that it wants to expand, and it wants to be there for me. It's been that feeling for quite some time, and that overlay, like I have some stuckness in my sinuses, so it's like I feel that there is some stuff moving through that part. Triangulation is like like I connect those three pieces together.
And that's how you do it? Is that sort of like a routine, like an energetic routine that you do?
Yeah, like when I connect, I kind of I know where the energy is stuck, so I allow it to be processed. Yes.
Nice. Okay. Anybody else? The physical sensations during the session? Anybody have particular things coming up? Cindy, Julia, and Sheila and I, we had quite a bit of burping and yawning at the beginning of the session. Sneezing could also be put into this category of energetic sensations. That's typically a clearing sign. Yeah, it's when energies get expelled. Okay. Yeah. So sometimes it can be quite compulsive. Actually, you have to all of a sudden you have to sneeze, and it won't stop. Okay. This is not an allergy. Well, it can be, but not if you are doing an energy session. Doing an energy session, that's a sign that stuff gets expelled. Yeah, your energy body is happy to clear things out. Yeah, it's a very good example for self-clearing. The same with yawning and the same with burping. Okay, there's obviously other physical clearing symptoms, but those were pretty prevalent here. So they have to do with this part of our energy system, which is the self-expression, which is the self-perception. Yeah, these are the main themes here in this session and also overall for October. So if you feel things stuck here, okay, stuck here or stuck here, okay, then you are, experiencing collective energies right now, yeah, having an effect on your energy system. Now, how does that help you? Seba, I love what you shared about the triangulation. There's a sort of a directing of energies involved in that, and you're a trained energy healer, so this is one of the ways how you figured out how you can sort of hone in to your center point. So this you will find this pretty much in all spiritual teachings and all techniques and practices, including yoga, that it's all about sort of honing in on the center point that then sort of activates a different or a new, it activates a shift in you. That shift leads to a spontaneous clearing of energy, and if you can stay there for just a few seconds, it can give you feelings like Emer described, yeah, where you begin to feel something like an overcoming or mastering of this inner split, yeah, this inner separation. This is a state of unifying. Okay, there's many different states, and obviously, you can go farther with that. But in my experience as an energy healer, guys, for over 20 years, I can tell you that it is the simple step, yeah, the one that we can all do in the moment that helps us the most, that we should practice like a martial art over and over and over again until your body and your energy body are doing this for you, like out of muscle memory, without you having to think about things. Because as soon as you start thinking, well, now you get stuck in trying to figure it out. As soon as you get, start getting emotional about things, okay, then you start getting angry or fearful. Or as soon as you, try to just overcome things with just pure activity with your body, okay, yeah, then, you're going to start getting pulled into your physical pain or the aches of what we call our 3D self. So being able to hone in and center your energies is the number one spiritual technique to overcome fears and anger, to overcome sadness and loneliness, and ultimately also to overcome the separation in this world. Yeah, and with that then, basically in the simplest way as I can describe it, the pathway to your higher self. Yeah, and that's, why we practice this here. We're in our 12th year. Connect with your true self every month for free. Okay, so this is amazing that, some of you have been doing this for like over 10 years. And I'm super happy to hear from you guys how, this actually works in you, how this has turned into muscle memory for you already. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Does anybody else want to share? Did anybody experience something more like visioning or imagery, pictures or messages come in during this session?
I had a sentence. I want to shine my light. And in the beginning, I said to myself, wow, where does these words come from? I will never say so about myself. And I was laughing a little, and then I write them down because I like them.
Did they come in English?
Yes.
This is interesting too for all of you guys non-native English speakers. Awesome, Annette. Okay, and you wrote them down. Okay,
Yeah.
and you laughed. I know you, and I know why you laughed. Because you know that you would have never uttered those words, not in English or in your native language. Okay, so this is a guidance that is coming in, okay? And this is what happens when we overcome this inner separation. We start accessing the guidance that is coming in from our true self, or later, the higher self, all right? And you said something else, and that is almost even more important. You wrote it down. At this point, I want all of you to remember to write down some of these inner experiences. Even if you just write down words or doodle something, okay? With the instructions, I sent out very elaborate journal pages. You don't have to print those out. You can, have a $1 composition book or a piece of paper, but best to keep them in one place, all right? And to write things down. Even if you, the ego you that is thinking right now, thinks it's insignificant, write these feelings, these sensations, these images or messages, write them down. Because when you're doing energy work, energetic self-healing work like we do here, okay, these things that you write down, they allow you to retrace this frequency that we were working with, this connect with your true self frequency, and especially today, connecting with your sacred heart. Yeah, so even if it's just, one drawing or one word, okay, and you can do it like I do it. I've learned this from remote viewing. I trace the word with my pen, okay, and I get sort of pulled back into the imprint, the energetic imprint of the session. Okay, yeah, this is something that I teach in my energy healer courses. So, Annette, thank you for sharing so much. So, you will probably, do you want to know what it means?
I think during the session I could see how I get pulled into my own darkness. And then I was asking, how can I change, or what can I change? Because I don't like that situation, or I don't like myself projecting my irritation or madness to others. And then humor was coming. And because
the irritation and the anger, is that what you identify as your shadow?
Yeah.
Aspects? Okay.
And I projected onto others, and I could see how how the middle ground or neutrality was needed. And then the sentence, I want to shine my light, came.
So did it actually say, I want to shine my light?
Yeah, I
Okay.
want to shine my light.
I know that that is a true statement from your true self, because I know you really do.
Yeah, it must be.
And I know you're struggling like all of us, but I know you really want it. You really chose it very consciously. So this is beautiful. I wasn't going to say, oh, it means this or that, because that's not my job, guys. We do an energetic self-healing here. And I'd much rather have you do what Annette just did, to actually tune into what it means to you and how you interpret it. And it's beautiful, Annette. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, you covered so many spots right now. Shadow work, which was a big part of this session and often comes forward when we connect with our true selves, because there's a reason why we don't, and that is usually because we sort of, when we go into this deeper connection with ourselves, we encounter, well, what we don't love about ourselves first, right? Is that what happens to you guys? That whenever you connect within, that, oh, and I'm so bad at this, and why did I do this, and why did I say this, and blah, blah, blah. So you get this onslaught of negative inner self-talk and all this sort of negative self-perception, and you think that that is your true self. But maybe you know better now. It's not your true self, guys. That's your head. That's the stuff that other people project. Okay, so Annette, by you admitting that part of your shadow is, projecting your irritation and your angriness, or, also your fears onto others, you actually helped everybody here to decode what the biggest problem with collective energies is. Namely, that everybody is doing that. And why is everybody projecting their fears or their anger? Well, because that's all they know. That's how we have been conditioned to deal with our emotions. That's how we have been conditioned to deal with challenges in life. We never had the privilege to go to a school like Master Tree Academy here in Orlando, where, as you guys know, that's my pet here for children, where you learn that that's not an appropriate way to deal with your emotion. You have to work it from within yourself. And yes, sometimes other people do things or say things that make you feel this way, but not really. It's just an emotion that is triggered in you. So when we start thinking, okay, that all about me is bad, okay, then when you feel this way, when you think this way, you are caught in the middle of your shadow. Okay, that's your shadow. I know it's surprising to most of you, because you think your shadow is when you have a negative thought about somebody else, or I don't know, your little addictions, or your secret pleasures. They're part of it, but they're not really actually the ones that keep you there. What keeps you there is the negative inner self-talk, the negative self-perception, and that is something that we have all been conditioned to do. And the reason why this works, guys, is because we are separated within. Okay, so again, feeling this, and Annette, it's wonderful, because you've been training this. That's how I know that your statements were true, because you work with me as a heart warrior in the energetic training club 2-3 times a week on these kind of things, and you can now articulate it, which is beautiful. So guys, when you get to that place where you can articulate what it is that separates you, then you're almost halfway there. Because now you just got to learn a few, practices and disciplines that help you to get past it, so that you can hear your true self talking to you. And that is what Annette just reported. Annette's true self said, Shine your light. Don't get caught in what you believe your darkness is. Just shine your light. Okay? Not in this cheesy way. Shine bright like a diamond. That just came up for me. That is a internal joke. How I help the kids to get through their traumatic hurricane experiences here in Florida. No, not in the cheesy way. Shine your light. Remember all the things that make you you. Yeah? The you, the heart in you, the part in you that is actually full of life and that can connect with others, that can, well, spread love, but, you know, in a way that, maybe in a silent way, yeah, like Emer described it earlier. Just connecting with it all and connecting with other people's hearts. Yeah, here's another sharing. My message was, so Sean, you had a message too, try to keep accepting other people's shadows as well as your own. And it felt good. Yeah, what do we do when we encounter people that are projecting things onto us and we can literally see, you know, so how all those aspects of themselves that they cannot love, how they are sort of trying to like externalize them, push them onto others. Do you know, people often say about others what they think about themselves deep down. Do you guys figure this out yet? All right, so what do you do? Well, I can tell you one thing not to do, and that is to go into this war of perception with them and trying to convince them that it's just their own shadow doing that. That is not going to fly. What you can do is, you know, recognize the level on which this is actually occurring, and it's very unconscious. You know, when people do blame shifting and, you know, externalizing and accusing others and, you know, for their own actions, for their own states or for their own choices. So just recognize that it's low and, you know, go into your own center and connect with your own sacred heart. Unless they are stepping over certain boundaries, like things that would harm you, things that take things away from you, or you know, like where you know, you have to deal with them, like say co-workers or, you know, in professional situations, you can't really just not deal with it or walk out. So if it's family or partner, you know, it's often the safer way to just say, okay, and walk out. And then revisit the issue later, depending on the relationship that you have with that person. If it's an important relationship, you may want to come back to that later when the person is in a better state. So, Sean, do you have to accept other people's shadows? No. You don't have to accept other people's shadows. You just have to accept the fact that everybody has shadow, including yourself, yes. And sometimes you are in that state. Sometimes I am in that state. So by accepting that the other person is in a low state in which the shadow comes forward and basically tries to, well, expel all their unloved parts and put them onto me, you have to learn to set a clear boundary. You have to recognize it. You have to recognize the other person's shadows, okay, and know that that's not yours, okay? You're just like...
Jona, thank you so much, because that's what's been going on for me, and I don't know, I just feel lighter, not goofy Lucy, but I just feel more clarity, so thank you so much for that.
This is one of those big sort of new agey transfiguration and misinformation things, is that we have to, like, when we're spiritual, we have to like accept, and we have to be so loving, and, you know, and yes, we do, but not because it's considered to be the right thing, but because it's important that we learn the boundaries between our own stuff and other people's stuff. And that requires us to actually know our own stuff first. So the reason why we have such a hard time with this is because we are avoiding looking at our own stuff. And Annette, that's why I praise you here, because when you look at your own stuff and you accept, you work with your shadow and you accept your own shadow, it becomes so much easier to see other people's darkness, to see other people's shadows, and to dance with their shadows. It's just like, okay, I'll come back later. Okay. Yeah, you don't have to go against them. Only if you go against your own shadow, you will feel compelled to go against other people's shadows. Yeah, if you can understand your own shadow as the parts in you that you cannot love yet, all right, then you don't actually have to go against it with others. If they go too far, obviously you need to set boundaries, but don't take them on. The reason why projecting things is so tricky, especially with energetic sensitivity, you guys are all mostly empaths and energetically sensitives, is that you in particular need to learn what's yours and what isn't. Okay, because you have these ideas that as a spiritual person you should, sort of absorb it all and bring it all into you, which is misinformation. Yeah. But at the same time, you should also not judge it. At the same time, you should understand that other people are projecting their stuff just like you do. And all that helps you to overcome your fear of your own darkness, your fear of your own shadow. Yeah, which is basically the key to your higher self and the answer to all of your life's questions. Okay? Yeah, we have to learn to live with our shadows. Yeah, not to cope with them or, by trying to hide them maybe, or by trying to, pretend they're not there, but, by just simply learning that this shadow aspect, these unloved parts of us, they are an instrumental part of our journey. So I actually wanted to start out our True Self Talk with this slide that you see on your screen right now. But due to your fantastic sharing, look, we didn't even need this as a prompt. So when it comes to fully understanding our inner experience and with it connecting with our true self, there are obviously different layers of this, and I've mentioned some of them already. This is our physical material, which also includes all of our bodily functions, our hormones, our biochemistry, and so forth, the actual matter aspect of our being. It includes the emotional part of our being, our emotions, and with it often also our psychological, what we would call psychology nowadays, this combination of neurotransmitters, hormones, and behaviors. And then we have the mental intellectual part that we can perceive about ourselves. And then we have the spiritual, or the unseen, the subtle aspect of ourselves that we here in our material world and also in psychology refer to as the ego, or the lower ego. And as one of the, I would say, highest developed psychologists or psychological scientists, I'm choosing Carl Jung for this quote to help you learn to differentiate between your spiritual self and your, 3D self, your ego self. He says one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Yeah, so Carl Jung was the pioneer for shadow work, and you guys all know this. So there's a psychological approach to shadow work, and then there is a spiritual approach to shadow work. And I want to show the difference here. Even though Carl Jung was famous for being a psychoanalyst and very intellectual, very good read, guys, if you are interested in psychology and psychoanalysis, okay? But he also did something later in his life, in his late years, that went beyond psychology. And so I like using Carl Jung because he has founded the fundamentals of psychoanalysis, but at the same time also ventured into the spiritual, into the subtle, into the etheric aspect of psychology. And so, yeah, that's my recommendation for you. So what does he mean with this? What he means is that you cannot overcome your own inner darkness by just imagining yourself in a more beautiful or in a pretty way. Yeah. So basically, this is an anti-New Age statement. What he says is you can't just, sort of fantasize, about the beauty of the world and the people in it, okay, because that does not match up with reality. There is a lot of darkness in this world. There is a lot of darkness in ourselves at times. And so the whole point here that Carl Jung is trying to make is that our journey needs to be both. We need to explore both aspects. And the other side to this, and this is often taken wrong in the spiritual perspective, is that if you focus too much on your shadow, too much on the darkness in the world or yourself, then you can get caught there as well. And so a spiritual scientist would say, well, yes, imagining figures of light isn't really going to get you there fully, but it can help you, sort of to positively prompt yourself with things that can then shift your energy into a higher state and therefore then have a positive psychological effect on you that then allows you to, shift your thoughts, your thinking into a more positive sort of outlook. So there is a connection here, but I really want you to see the difference. Okay, at the end of the day, we need to find the balance. So if all we do is, wanting to see, angels and waterfalls and unicorns, which is a very luciferic sort of impulse for us, sort of like escaping, the dirtiness and the chaos of reality, then we call this delusional. But on the other hand, if all we do is focus on the darkness and the ugliness and the gore and the coldness of this material world, which is an harmonic impulse, all right, then we forget what we are made of. We forget our own origin. We forget that if we step into the middle, if we step into the center between these two darknesses in the world, okay? Watch any of my many videos about the nature of darkness and duality of darkness and so forth. If we step into the middle, and this is what we call the sacred heart, something very, very important happens. When you step into your sacred heart, and you do this through your choosing, through your willing, through, for example, coming once a month here to these sessions where we practice this, just because it's easier to do it in a group than remembering to do it on your own. But with the instructions, I give you everything, including MP3s and so forth, that you can use to practice this on your own. And when you come and consciously connect with your true self, what happens is that you are starting to feel, how much you're not actually connecting with your true self first. How you might be experiencing a restriction in your breathing. You might be experiencing sort of a headiness in you. You can all just think about things, or you might be experiencing physical things that are starting to ache, or an anxiousness, or emotions that you judge as bad emotions. Okay, and that's just in the beginning. That's just sort of the first 5 to 10 minutes, because this is the state that you're in. So you illuminating the state that you're in. And after you can overcome this and you start to feel something expand in you, maybe you have some clearing sensations as I described earlier here. Maybe you feel the need to move or to expel things, and go ahead and do that. But these are normal things that we all have to go through when we want to connect with our heart. And then as you start feeling your own center better, I suggest that you use breathing techniques, whichever breathing techniques work best for you, that you ground yourself by imagining your breath going into the ground as deep as you can, barefoot preferably, or, press your hands together, or press, like your butt cheeks together, or whatever, to allow you to fully arrive in your body and in the ground. And then as you breathe, you continue to connect your breath with the cosmos, with the world, with the sun, with the stars, with the moon. Okay, and that helps you to triangulate yourself, like Seba mentioned earlier. Yeah, you between, the center of the earth and the center of the sun, you will find your heart. You will find your heart right in the middle. And that is then when your true self basically sends an impulse to your higher self. Yeah, your higher self is the eternal part of you. So the true self is basically the placeholder here in the material for your higher self. But it's just a placeholder. It's just a potential that you have. Because if someone never grows beyond ego, they're not actually connecting with their higher self. Okay? So you connect with your higher self via your true self, and that occurs through the heart, through the flame in your sacred heart. It sends an impulse to your higher self, your I, your higher ego, if as some call it. Okay, and what happens then is that your higher self now sends a signal to your soul and says, "Oh my God, she just connected with her heart. She just talked to her true self. So you are about to be perceived. She can feel you, maybe not consciously yet, but you now need to start talking to her." Yeah. So this comes through your astral body. Your soul will start talking to you. And how does your soul talk to you? In forms of yearning, in forms of a weird nostalgia, in form of desiring to connect more, in form of wanting to feel more united, more connected with something. That is your astral body, okay, trying to communicate to you that your soul now has you on its radar, okay, because unless we make this a conscious process, guys, we're not fully connected with our soul. We're just connected with the potential to become a conscious soul self, but we aren't. Those are just placeholders. Our ego is a placeholder for it until, sometimes called as our soul's insurance policy. Okay? Yeah. Until you consciously connect with your heart, with your true self, your soul is kind of asleep in you. And this is then what we call the awakening, okay? the problem with the awakening is that you get all kinds of yearning now. You get all kinds of misunderstandings, Of course, we all know that we have to, shine our light and, that love and light will overcome it all. But we don't quite have the right understanding of this yet. That requires us to educate ourselves a little bit more in these spiritual principles. Okay, so connecting just with everybody, okay, doesn't work. Okay, if people don't like you, if people hate you, or if people try to kill you, all right, that is not going to help you live this life, and learn your lessons. So what else is needed? What is needed now is for your intellect to come into the journey, to not just get caught in your yearning, in your subjective desires, but to ennoble, to refine your desires through your intellect, through your moral considerations, through legal considerations, through, whatever the consequences might be, how this affect others. That comes from your mind. That's what you need your intellect for. And many of you are very successful at understanding, that you have to find the middle ground here. Now, you can't just walk around in white robes and, sort of force your love on everybody. This doesn't work, guys. And there's a reason why this doesn't work, because it's not fully integrated. The integration of your higher self has to happen through your intellect, but not as your intellect. Your intellect has to come in and understand the principles of sensing, feeling, and willing. You have to understand, what it is that you're dealing with, even concepts like light and dark. That is an intellectual process. But you can't get stuck in there. Spiritual knowledge will not do anything for you if it is not integrated with your astral. The true desire, truly wanting to connect, truly wanting to live this life as an awakened soul self among other awakened souls. This is a true heart's desire. Okay, that isn't there at first. It's an ego desire, a lower desire. They're wanting to have power, wanting to have money, wanting to be famous, wanting everybody to love you, you think that that's what connection is. And you find out in the course of your life, most of you already have, that that's not true connection. Okay? It needs to be ennobled through your conscious willing, your conscious choosing. That comes through your intellect. And what your intellect does now, and this is the interesting part, this is very important for the later or the more advanced spiritual understanding, is that it actually helps your etheric self now to imprint itself, okay, onto your conscious awareness. So in the highest state of soul development, you have these aspects of yourself fully integrated. The physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, or the doing, the physical, the sensing, the feeling, the thinking, and the perceiving. Okay, and that is how our true self, basically as a messenger to your higher self, activates your conscious soul self-awareness step by step. And in these different stages of soul self-development, you need to learn different things. Okay, so in the first awakening stages, like we just said, you need to learn to overcome, this inner split, this inner separation that separates you from yourself. Then you need to learn to overcome your fears and your anger. Because that is something that if your astral body isn't refined, okay, all you will try to do is escape and avoid. That's Luciferic in nature. And then in the next level, when your intellect comes into the game, you need to learn to overcome your loneliness. Because as soon as you understand that the majority of people on this planet aren't really that conscious, aren't really, that connected, okay, that there is quite a lot of duality here and that's still a bit of work, okay, you're going to start feeling alone. You're going to start feeling the world is against you. Anybody ever felt that? I know you have. Yeah. That is the stage in which you are right now. You have to learn to overcome this. And how do we overcome this? By opening ourselves up to true connection. Yeah, so whatever it is that you thought love and relationship and connection used to be is now refined. And in that refined stage where you can actually begin to truly connect, not just with your true self, your higher self, but also others. Stuff like projecting your emotions, negative inner self-talk, negative self-perception, judgment, doesn't fly anymore, guys. It requires you to have the highest level of integration, which is, the empathy on one hand, the ability to connect with other people's hearts, but without losing yourself in it. Yeah, without falling into the unhealed healer or the people pleaser, to maintain and strengthen your own spiritual identity, your conscious I, through and with connecting with others. So all these problems that you guys have as empaths out there that I have been talking about for 20 years in there's 868 or whatever videos on my YouTube channel. It's all about that, and that's just half of it. That's just the public videos that I've done. All the workshops, all the sessions, everything that I do here at transCODES that you can, by the way, book and sign up for in group sessions and personal sessions or in courses at transcodes.com is all about overcoming that, no matter what stage of soul development, soul awareness, higher self-awareness you are at. Everything is about your inner experience of your higher self here in the physical, and you'll have to learn to overcome your fears, your anger, your headiness, which is the one that separates you from others, which brings in the loneliness, and then ultimately, your judgment. Ultimately, you have to learn, and this is then part of the spiritual initiation process that you will want to engage in, because once these impulses are sent, once your sacred heart fire is burning, that process is going on with or without you. Yeah, so you're going to have to go through these stages, okay? And in the beginning, we believe that these problems that we encounter are just ours, and that's not true. So that's why the highest level of, connection is actually the one that we're doing right now. Yeah, to connect through community, through sharing, and through selfless, but not self-sacrificial, contributing and sharing. None of you were asked to give up anything of yourself. Here, on the contrary, you were, so I hope, empowered, encouraged, inspired to connect more with yourself through the session and through this talk. So if you want to know more about me, my name is Jona Bryndis, energy coach, energy trainer, energy healer. All right, then go to transcodes.com or visit us here in our free online community on Skype called Daily Sacred Self. The link for that is on my website, or you can get it from friends. So I hope that you guys are finding this information, but also your inner experience so valuable that you share it with others. Yeah, that's then the highest level of connecting. Yes, there is life here after all. And wherever there is life, there is love. We just have to learn to ennoble our love, okay, to reframe it, yeah, away from our ego desires to our true heart's desires. And once you're on the path to doing that, all these questions go away and you will see the larger purpose in everything that you do. I love you guys. Thank you all for coming, especially for those of you who showed up here live after our session. Please share this information with others. Never before have we been at this point where people are open and able not to understand why we need to change, why we need to do this. Talk to you soon.